Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of The Savvy Stylist. I am your host, Amy Walker, and I'm so excited to be bringing this really juicy, big conversation to you guys today. I have a very special guest with me today. I told you that I was going to start bringing in some outside experts to support the conversations that we are having here in this space. And so, to continue in our last few conversations around the topic of burnout in the beauty industry, I started speaking to you guys a little bit about building your capacity and what that looks like inside the beauty industry, why it's important, and why it's something that I want to help teach you. And as I was doing the whole episode, 2 episodes ago, speaking about capacity and how I have done it and the way that it relates to me, I realized that I needed to bring in an expert, and I had the absolute perfect human for this conversation. So I am going to introduce Miss Trysha. She is the capacity queen. I had the honor of meeting her very briefly in Montreal in September at the As She Rises conference. We had an opportunity to sit at a table together over lunch and just go back and forth and chat. And I was just honestly in such awe. So this is so perfect. I need to welcome Trysha to the podcast. She is the capacity queen. She is a wife. She is a mama of two and has lived in Northern BC for her whole life. A fellow BC babe. I love this. She's always been the person that wants more out of life, more memories, more joy, more energy, more time to connect, more adventures, more satisfaction. Tired of feeling ashamed, like it's greedy to want so much out of this one beautiful life we get to live. She founded her own company, Rise and Thrive Coaching, and got certified as a life and performance coach. Now she spends her days connecting with other female entrepreneurs that want more out of this life, and she gets to help them create the most beautiful, sustainable ways. She is fueled by her work, so passionate about everything that crosses her manifesting generator heart. You will not meet someone with a more contagious energy, guaranteed. I can speak to this. She is an incredible human. Welcome, Trysha.
Hi, Amy. Thank you. I love nobody even attempts my last name. It's just so much easier that way.
You know, I didn't want to botch it either because that would have been something I would have done.
All good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, in our last couple of episodes here at the Savvy Stylist podcast, we have been talking about building capacity in relation to burnout in the beauty industry. It is a conversation that is just so near and dear to my heart because I have been in the beauty industry for over 20 years. And over the last 3 years, it's become really apparent that the beauty industry professionals in all walks of their journey, whether they're new to the industry, whether they're a business owner, whether they're educators, it really doesn't matter. The common theme is that the overwhelm and the stress and the anxiety is leading to burnout, which is leading to them leaving the industry faster and faster. And so it's become a really big core conversation that I'm having in salons, online, and I really feel like building the capacity in our lives and in our businesses is so important. So I'm going to ask you some questions. And for our listeners, when lots of people are hearing this conversation and going like, what does that even mean? So like, what does capacity mean from the queen herself?
Yeah, I love this. So I actually taught on this last week in the program that I kicked off. We're all familiar with the whole fill your cup thing, right? And that's fine. We can all do the workouts, we can all eat right, we can drink our water, like we can do the things that make us feel good in a day. But if you have a 250 ml cup and your day demands 400 mils from you, it's not enough to just fill your cup, right? As we grow and evolve in life, the demands change. right? They evolve with us. Obviously, in high school, like our capacity was very different. We had to go to school, we had to get good grades, show up with our friends, a little with our family, right? And then we go to college, and now, like, even the time that we pour into friends is different. The time that we pour into school, like, the buckets, the demands change. And as we go, it's not enough to just say, I'm going to fill my cup. Like, we have to start to assess, like, what are the things that I actually have to do differently so that I don't feel like everything I do for myself is just barely enough to get me through the day. And this was something that I was noticing even in myself, was if I missed a day, like if I miss one workout, all of a sudden, boom, day's gone. I'm like, I've got like a 72-day streak and I missed one day and now here I am again. Like, that's why, is because we're just like constantly filling this container that isn't big enough to go around for everything that we have or want in our lives.
Right. Yeah, I saw your post yesterday, maybe I saw it with the cup and like full of
Yeah.
water and like the little cuts of all the different things it require and how it starts to drain out. And the visual, I was like, I'm such a visual person.
Yeah.
To see that, I was like, wow, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. It took a bit to find, like, I've seen people use like water in cups, like you add the things, like how much water can you fit? And I was like, nope, that's not it. I was like, I need this visual. And you're right, because it was like, how can we see how we're undoing our own progress? Like, for anybody, I know you're going to share my Instagram. I've got that reel pinned to the top so that people can go back and be like, what were they talking about? Is up
Amazing.
at the top.
Yeah,
Because
so
it is a good
smart.
visual. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll pin all that information in the show notes so that our listeners can find you. And I would highly encourage going to see that reel because honestly, the visual just like brought it all to life for me, which was really cool. So, how did you get into teaching this work?
Yeah. So this is actually beautifully aligned that we're going to speak about burnout, because my background is in healthcare. I was a lab and x-ray tech for 10 years. The pandemic hit. I think all of us kind of questioned like what we want to do in our life. And I just had a moment where I was like, there are other ways for me to help people. Like, I want to do it in that preventative sort of aspect. So started down the path of like health and wellness, and then found life coaching. And it was in life coaching my clients that it just like it continued to kind of lead me to this. Like, I've always liked doing more myself. I've always loved being able to find how can I allow myself to do more, right? It's not just doing more, it's going, okay, if I want to do that, what do I have to do to be able to do that, right? You want to go run a marathon, it's not as easy as just sign up for the marathon, right? And a full marathon requires something different than a 5K, right? So like, just to kind of paint that picture of what started coming to light for me as I was coaching different people that were walking different paths, that had different demands and all of these things. And earlier this year, I was having a conversation with a fellow coaching friend, and we were talking about core values. And we were talking about, like, for me, it's being intentional with our actions, following your intuition and staying connected with the people around you, building those deeper connections. And I was like, that's a lot in our life. Like, how do we hold all of that? And then the word capacity just kept coming up again and again and again, because for a while it was just, oh, I work with high performers. We're just the people that like doing things. And it's like, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't quite it. And it's funny because if I go back now and I listen to workshops that I did before I had that clarity moment, I was using the word capacity like everywhere, left and right. It was in so many of my old workshops. And I'm like, this is so interesting. But yeah, now we're just at this place where it's like I could take everything that I've done, both from my healthcare background, experiencing my own burnout, my own mental health journey, 4 years of all of this like array of coaching. And it's like now it's in this one little neat package to be laser focused on capacity.
Yeah, amazing. So it kind of found you.
Yeah, it
Here,
did
this is
did.
what we need to do.
Yeah, it was waiting for me to like open my eyes to it for sure.
Yeah. So a big part of the conversation around burnout, um, in the beauty industry, what I'm seeing a lot of, and again, why it pulls back in the whole learning how to build the capacity to hold all of the things, is we're seeing in this world, and this isn't just the beauty industry, this is like across the board, everybody in all the different walks of life want to get from point A to point Z like laser fast. And so we find ourselves like running through all of the steps and trying to really quickly get to where it is we want to be without building up any of the like confidence and the know-how and the education to be able to hold all those different steps. So specifically, I see young stylists coming out of beauty school wanting to be their own boss and open their own salon, whatever that looks like. And so they're going from this little baby tiny seed that has just started to sprout to like being the the queen of all the, like, you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
going from not having any idea about the beauty industry to now running the show, and then wondering why in 2 years or even less than that they're like, I can't do this, this is insane, this is terrible, I hate this, the industry is XYZ. And so what I had started to kind of talk about, and you can speak more to this, is learning how to focus on one thing and building the confidence in that one thing, and how by building confidence, the comfort then builds the confidence, then builds the capacity to then add on to the next. So I really want to help empower people to like slow down a little bit again,
Mhm.
and sort of play into that or lean into that, learning the skill, mastering the skill, becoming comfortable with the skill to then move on to the next thing, and how to kind of stack those. So what is your take on that?
Yeah. So it's twofold, right? If you want to go from 0 to 100, you've got to, you kind of almost just have to accept that it's going to be really hard and so difficult because to come into an industry like straight out of school, you already like you have the industry itself to learn. And then if you've never been in business before and you're like, at the same time that I'm learning this skill, I'm going to also learn how to run my own business, like the capacity required to do that mentally and emotionally. I'm not even talking about physically, mentally and emotionally to learn a new skill, to like build a name for yourself and build a business. It would be like going from this like 250 ml cup to a 4 liter like jug and
Yeah.
expecting yourself to be able to just like right into that. And it's not to say that you can't. Lots of us, like I went from healthcare to starting my own business. It has come with a massive mental toll. It's come with a lot of days of questioning, like, do I want to keep doing this? Like, oh my God, pull my hair out, put me back where I was. Like, it's hard. You have to be a little insane because a sane person would walk away from it. So if you're the person that's like, yep, I've got thick skin, like I do all the things, I grow at a fast rate. I've got a wicked support system at home. Like my spouse can soften the blow for the income gap. Like go fill your boots. Go do the thing. But for most people, that's not sustainable, right? That's where we get to the burnout because it is a lot while you're learning the business and you're trying to learn how to run the business and like all of these things. It's just you're being pulled in so many directions that it's hard to do any of it with excellence. And if we feel like I'm putting in all of this work, but it's like little bits going into little buckets all day, every day, it takes a really long time for us to start to see the reward. And then we start to question why we're doing so much work to not get anything out. And like we're human beings, some of us are a little spoiled. We want more instant gratification than delayed. But like we have to hit that reward center. So if we're being spread too thin and it's taking forever for things to stack, like we start to really spiral about it. And then that's a drain on our mental capacity. And we're taking these hits, not just maybe from clients, but like now the bank is after you, or like you have to pay rent, or now I'm moving from this studio into my home in my basement. Like now I'm like all of these things, right? It's like it's a constant mental and emotional pull. And if we're not also getting the reward center, then it's like that's super draining on us.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I see that so much. And I mean, I kind of sit on both sides where it's like I love the instant gratification, but I also know that I'm a bit of a perfectionist and I need to be able to do the things well. So for me, like I have that struggle of like, okay, I need to learn it, but I need to learn it fast and get really good at it fast so that I can get up here and have that gratification. But it's such a pull and such a back and forth of like what we desire and then how to get there,
Mhm.
right? And having those tools in our toolkit um to be able to do that.
I think that even as you're saying like the toolkit, and you'll be able to kind of play on this a little bit more because obviously like you know all of the tools that go into like hairstyling, right? Like, but if you imagine when you first start out, you don't have anything, right? You're broke from your loans and like you're trying to get the things. And it's not until you start working with your clients that you realize like I actually need a different tool. Oh, I'm getting this person coming in now. Now I have to get this like different dye, like oh, like you can kind of correct these things as we're
Yeah,
going, but it's not until you're doing it that you learn, oh, I actually need this. Oh, I didn't need that. Oh, this needs to be a little bit different. Like you have to be in the thick of it. And you're right. Like it is like, can I learn this faster so that I can get to the next thing? But we have to learn the things. We can't just like, you could, if you want, come out of school and go spend $30,000 and have this like beautiful array of all of the things, and you might not even use half of them.
yeah,
Or you're going to be like pulling your hair out, like, I have so many things to learn. And then that's overwhelming. And then like the more mental and emotional drain.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that is true in a lot of different stages of our life where we think we need something. And so we prepare for that one thing. And then you realize once you're doing it that maybe that the way that you learned it or that you thought you might need it doesn't actually work for you. And so you have to switch those out. And I think that's a really key point too, is that it's not a one and done. Like this whole process of growth, building capacity, building your confidence, all of the things is a continual journey and changes as we change and our needs change and the goals change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
It's a
think
very,
that
right.
we just want to like skip ahead a
Mm,
lot, right? And we forget that there is no finish line. Like there's constant growth. Like you're in an industry that is subject to what the fad is, right?
mm,
Like the
yeah,
area that you live in, like all of these things, like there's constant evolution. So when we want to skip steps, it's that instant gratification that's like, well, if I just master this, if I just open my own shop, like I'll be able to just skip all of the crap. Like, no. We
right.
don't get to skip it. There's always evolution that's gonna go. So pace yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's funny. Like, um, I had such a good thought. You know, when you have like the best thoughts and you're like, oh, I got to say that, but then it just like leaves. I think it's interesting because when we look at, say, building a business, you know, in the beauty industry, you are right that it is constantly evolving. And so we are filling our bucket and learning the tools and learning, you know, the different strategies and all of the techniques constantly. It's not like you learn it and then you go and do it and it never changes and you like rinse and repeat forever and ever. And so it's why I say, and it's something I teach on, is like the moment that you stop being a student is literally the end of your career. And I think that's a hard thing too for newer like newer people coming into the beauty industry to really understand is like, no, I went to school. Like I
Mhm.
went to a really good school. I learned really good things. Maybe I mentored for 6 months under somebody. Like I got this. I know what it is that I'm doing. And that's just not the case. You know, it is always changing. There is always something new to learn. You will forever be a student. So that's why I think that this whole learning a few ways to help build confidence, to build capacity for all of this is so important because it will happen for the entire life cycle of a
Mhm.
stylist career, right?
Mhm.
So what would a couple of tips that you would give somebody like fairly new to this conversation, learning about how to build their capacity? How does one person even like where do they start?
Mm. That's almost a hard one to ask because it would depend if it is it the person that's like wanting to skip 20 steps and go to I'm going to build a business and a brand
Let's
new
talk to that
business.
person. Let's talk to the person who's like, I'm out of school, or maybe I've been in it a year or two. This working for somebody is not for me. I'm gonna go do my own thing. I'm my own boss. I'm gonna open my own salon.
Yeah.
Now what?
So the first thing that I do with my clients that are at this place where they're like, I want to get away from this. So if you're someone that's like, I don't want to work for someone else before or work for someone else anymore, sorry, you have to break down why that is. It's not enough to just be like, I just want to be my own boss. I don't like their rules, so I'm going to go create time freedom. Like, why don't you like them? Is it butting up against a core value? Like there's always a core value. When someone's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do something different. There's always a core value that's being crossed. But what core value is it? Because if we don't want to work for someone else anymore because it's taking away time from our family, and then we go start a business and have to spend all of this time learning how to run the business, now we're still not happy. And then we feel like it's the beauty industry itself, when really it was we suck at setting boundaries and managing our time. So it's not to say that you can't get away from the employer, but identify that piece first because we have to make sure that we learn that lesson before we go over here. Otherwise, we're just going to bring that energy drain with us. So then if we look at, I like the time and boundaries. I was talking with my hairstylist in October and boundaries and time are a big thing with her. So I'll just kind of like bring that example with us. So if time and boundaries is an issue with your employer and you're struggling with that side of things, when you come into, okay, I am going to start a business. I'm willing to go through the mental and emotional slew of things that's going to come up. How can I make sure that I honor my own time? How can I make sure that I continue to set boundaries with myself, with my clients, right? Like if we start to let people walk all over us, then it makes this thing that was supposed to be like light and hope and potential and opportunity. Now it's also the thing that's like weighing us down, right? So being able to come to a place where we do set firm boundaries. Boundaries are like if we imagine somebody coming around poking all the holes in your cup, you can keep trying to just fill your cup. You could continue to try to patch the holes, or you could go deal with the little person that's running around with the thumbtack poking the holes in it, right? Like we have to address why this keeps coming. Maybe it's setting boundaries with our spouse to say, hey, I work long hours. It would mean a lot that dinner's done when I get home. And then I'll clean the kitchen. That's fine. But like setting clear communication, clear boundaries, even for someone that's single, right? Now we have to just shift our expectations. Maybe it's not expecting yourself to do all of the things with excellence, but also not letting yourself off the hook to say, I'm just going to do takeout. I'm going to do takeout again and again and again, right? Like we go into autopilot sometimes. So setting that boundary with ourselves to say, okay, I want to do this. It's gonna take work. We have to meet like our basic human needs. We have to eat, and you guys are on your feet all day. Like we got to take care of our body too. Like we have to kind of break down those pieces that need to be done to elevate us. We have to get rid of the energy drains, the time, the boundaries, the energetic side of things too, right? If the work you're doing isn't lighting you up, it's not going to combat the fact that the job is draining, right? Sitting in front of a computer all day is still draining. Like the blue light, like it's just different, right? So being able to combat the energy drains, but always making sure like if the work you're doing isn't lighting you up, if your clients aren't lighting you up, if you're like, oh my God, I only get these people that have this like one thing, like I'm sure, do you have somebody that you're like, you're not my ideal client? If I get one of you in a month, that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's actually like one of the core things that I help teach people about is how to figure out who that ideal client is. Because if your entire day, you're right, your entire day is full of soul sucking people, that just drain everything from you, you're going to hate your job and you're going to that burnout piece comes so much faster because you literally just have like nothing left to give. And you can only do that so many times before you're like, okay, that's it. I'm done. This is, you know, or check it out.
Yeah. So even so if we look at like the constant evolution and the constant changing and like talking about how our capacity is going to evolve as we go, there's going to be a moment where you realize I'm unhappy with this and I need to make a change. And it's going to feel scary because you're like, oh, this is going to take more capacity again. Like this is another bucket. But the things that were draining for us before aren't as draining anymore, right? We get to things that like used to be hard and now they're just part of the day. Now they're easy. Now they're on autopilot, whatever. So remembering to build that belief with ourselves that like, I did it once before. I know what to do to be able to do this. I know how I need to treat myself. I know who I need to be. Like, get comfortable with making that choice to say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And this is why. And I know it's going to be a process to go figure out the next thing. Like, I think that that's the thing that we set ourselves up for failure with the most is we don't anticipate the lag time. Like when we pivot, if we change our client base, if we change from employee to CEO, like there's a big gap in between where it's going to be a painful process. Things are going to slow down. It doesn't mean you're failing. It's just a learning curve. So don't waste your mental capacity beating yourself up about it. Just do the work to get where you want to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think you hit on something so important, and I really want to like just circle back to it for a second because um you said how like when we look at, okay, I don't want to work for somebody anymore. I want to do my own thing because ABC, like what is that actual reason? And does you being your own boss, you opening your own salon, does that actually solve the problem? Or is the problem still there, just now in a different capacity? Now you actually are responsible for a whole lot more
Mhm.
because you never actually dealt with the original problem. I think that is like, for me, that was like a light bulb of like, oh my gosh. And I think we can take that into so many other areas of our life where we're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to walk away and do something different. But like, what was the reason? What was the thing that made you want to quit?
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
even if we look at, like I'm sharing with you guys, like do the things that elevate your capacity, right? Your body is sore. People tell you work out. So you go and try the yoga class, but you hate it. So then you're like, I just won't do anything. Like, why did you hate it? Was it the instructor? Was it the instructor? Was it like there's like 72 different kinds of yoga? Like, was it that your clothing just wasn't comfortable? Was it that you didn't like doing it in person and you want to do it at home? Like there's so many factors that we can pick apart. Maybe yoga isn't your jam. Maybe it's going to be something else. Maybe it's strength training, right? Like just anytime you find that you're unhappy with something in life, breaking down, okay, why isn't this working? I think that that's like the most powerful question that we can ask ourselves is why isn't this working? And then being able to ask like, what do I need to do to change it? And it's so empowering, right? To come back to that place where we're like, no, I know what I like and what I don't like, and I'm gonna do something to change that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Such a big conversation, right? There's so much to unpack here in our short bit of time. So, okay, Miss Trisha, let's say I'm going to put all of your information in the show notes so our listeners can find you on Instagram. Um, if somebody wants to reach out and work with you, they're like, "Yep, I need to figure out how to do this." She is a person. How does somebody work with you? What do you got going on?
Yeah. So I actually closed the doors today on my 3-month program. But I work with clients one-on-one. I love in the world of like entrepreneurs and capacity, one-on-one is extra special because we get to kind of accelerate the results. Like in the program I'm doing right now, we have like a curriculum that we're flowing through, but everybody might be at different stages. So working with somebody one-on-one, we're able to like really unpack like where do you want to go, what's stopping you from getting there, and what's the action plan that we create that we can start to get you there now. Most of my clients in the first week, we start to shift that energy energetic capacity, and they immediately feel it like internally. We can't always change everything around us right away, but internally they start to feel that like clarity coming back and that energy and like wanting to get out of bed and all of those things. So on my website, you can book a free one-on-one with me. Or if you're someone that's like, yeah, I kind of want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on boundaries. I actually did a 3-day workshop last month on 3 days to larger than life energy. And day one was boundaries. Day two was micromanaging versus nurturing energy. And day three was tapping into your new identity in your highest capacity. And that one's just like a mini course that they can get instant access to. They can get a feel for, do I want to talk to Trysha more? Yes or no, before I book that free session. But yeah, those are kind of the two easiest ways, I think, just from like this touch point to the free one-on-one or the small masterclass.
Amazing. I love that. So exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again for being with us today and sharing your knowledge and information. I hope that if you're listening to this episode today that you took something from it. We would love if you are listening and you're like, yes, that resonates. That's me. I'm going to try that. I need to do that. Please share it to your socials and tag both Trysha and I. We would love to know what's working. If you took a win from this, if you tried something and it was super successful, let us know. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you again, Trysha, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Until the next time, my friends, I love you so much. I hope you have a beautiful day, and we will see you on the next episode of the Savvy Stylist podcast. Mwah.